national championship game, 1982, 63,000 people.
Dean Smith asks and gets timeout.
I missed the front end of a one-on-one with about a minute and a half to go, and Sleepy Floyd went down and scored to put them up one. I'm kind of a little rattled in that timeout. I'm thinking I just cost Coach Smith a shot at the national championship.
Look at Dean Smith, totally in control.
The talk that he gave in the huddle was the most inspirational talk I've ever heard in my life, and it was the most confident, like that, you know, we're in great shape. I'd much rather be in our shoes than theirs. Isn't this fantastic? We get to determine who wins this game. When they left that huddle at the end of that timeout, I knew we were going to win.
Jordy to Black. The tie, 18. Sean Jordan. North Carolina has won the 1982 NCAA championship.
His teams always believed that they were playing for the group goal. And he did it within his system, and he did it in a consistently excellent manner.
A glance at Dean Smith's 36 years as head coach at North Carolina shows 27 consecutive seasons of 20 victories or more, 11 Final Four appearances, 17 ACC titles, and 2 national championships. But a closer look reveals that in the beginning, nothing was guaranteed. Nothing was easy.
North Carolina had just been put on probation. A lot was expected from someone following Frank McGuire.
Dean was hired following a very strong personality, and a lot of people just didn't think it would work.
People were not happy with Dean Smith, to the point that there were all sorts of rumblings during that stage of him being removed and someone else coming in and getting this program straightened away. We had just lost to Wake Forest. I'm back on the bus, and we pull up in front of Woolen Gym.
And I was actually on the seat across from Dean Smith and looked down, and there was this dummy hanging out of a dormitory window, and it was Dean Smith
being hung in effigy. I remember the team was just very hurt by this.
Billy Gallanty and Billy Cunningham went out, climbed up, pulled the thing down. It was the turning point in Dean's career.
2 years later, the Tar Heels would go 26-6, winning the first of 3 straight ACC titles. Meanwhile, Smith was developing a reputation as an innovator.
Dean, I thought, was the most creative coach in the game itself, ever.
I have these ideas and want to try them all. Unfortunately, I was talked out of some of them.
I remember our first team wore weighted shoes in practice, and God, we all had pulled muscles.
Some things worked, some didn't.
Whether it's people huddling at the free throw line or the simple things of pointing at a guy who makes a good pass for you. Run and jump defenses or double team defenses, or
always changing defenses, the fist, the signals, getting those loud dunks against the zone. And then, of course, the four corners itself.
Uh-oh, they're going into 4 corners. So this could open the floor.
Well, they can do it now because we're under 4 minutes.
Dean employed the 4 corners, not only as a way to run down the clock and beat the trap, but as a means to open up the defense and score points. The strategy was so successful, it led to the institution of the shot clock. But not everyone liked it.
I think in this game, there's more overcoaching done than undercoaching. And from my point of view, in many ways, I felt that Dean overcoached.
Dean Smith's philosophy was that no single player was greater than the team. Consequently, he was criticized for not winning more championships and suppressing the individual talents of his 9 first-team All-Americans.
You know, the old joke, who was the only person to hold Michael Jordan under 20 points a game? Dean Smith. Ha-ha, it's a funny thing. It's a funny line. For Dean Smith to come under one iota of criticism for the way he handled Michael Jordan is the stupidest comment you could ever hear about their relationship. Michael Jordan said he realized at a young age playing for Dean Smith that he was very fortunate because the structure was bigger than anybody, and he appreciated that.
We had a system where all 5 guys would touch the ball on offense before you would start to go. A lot of systems is just catch and go. That's really not basketball. He taught us a lot of little small things that made us better players.
Dean is probably one of the most structured and organized individuals I've ever been around in my life. You may go in a deli and he's got to put the napkin correct in his lap. It's one hand underneath the table. When he coaches the same way. I mean, he's got everything structured and everything organized. You know, he's a perfectionist.
None of the players have ever heard him use a swear word. But he can certainly, in his way, get a player's attention.
Hold it, Larry! You're talking and I'm talking.
There were times where discipline was needed to star players at crucial times in either a game or before a game, where Coach Smith took the moral right road. He always said basketball was not the most important thing about what we did. He did not worry about winning championship. He worried about growing men.
Dean Smith never lost sight of the ultimate priority. During his 36 years, only 7 players left early for the NBA.
Michael Jordan, James Worthy, and J.R. Reed all have been back for their degree. And that's why you go to college, I would assume.
You see all the players that he was blessed with to coach. The one commitment they make to him is they will come back and finish their education. And I think Coach's graduation rate was over 98%.
I think his moral compass is at the core of his being. He takes seriously his faith and wants to act upon it.
He could have been a great lawyer or doctor or whatever he chose because he's very bright, and yet he is held to those Midwestern values.
Dean grew up in Emporia, Kansas, one of 2 children. In 1934, his father, Alfred, was the first coach to integrate high school basketball in the state. In 1966, Dean followed suit. Charlie Scott became the first black to receive a basketball scholarship from Chapel Hill.
I was up there for my weekend visit, and he asked me, did I want to go to church with him? And again, this was the South of the 1960s. And I knew at that time that blacks and white did not go to church together. So I said, yeah, flabbergasted he would ask me that type of question. But again, it showed the commitment that he had to me as an individual. Coach Smith had concepts about integration before me, not just because of me.
In recruiting Charlie Scott, Dean Smith helped to clear the table of the taboo against recruiting black basketball players at Southern traditionally white institutions. And this buoyed the optimism, the hopes, the dreams of young black basketball players across the South.
It meant something when Charlie Scott came. It meant change. It meant opportunity. That meant more than just the win.
Win or lose, Dean Smith was going to make headlines tonight in North Carolina's game with Fairfield. He was either going to tie Adolph Rupp as the winningest coach in college basketball history, or he was going to become the first coach of a number 1 seed to lose to a number 16 seed.
When he got close to the record, the attention that was brought on himself was very uncomfortable for him.
I wish they wouldn't do coaching records. I don't enjoy the public eye. I don't even enjoy this.
Coach in the history of college basketball, 877 career victories.
I saw a man that stood for more than just sports. I mean, he really stood for student athlete in that order.
He's been there for me, not only through the good times, but through the bad times. When I was in the hospital, I remember him calling me every day to see how my treatment was coming. He's the only man that I know that has over 200 children, and only 4 of them are girls.
He did what college coaches should do. He graduated players. He had players that went on to do all kinds of things other than play professional basketball. They added to society. They didn't detract from it.
He's going to be remembered as the greatest coach to ever coach basketball. But I think in life, he's going to be remembered as one of the greatest people to ever live.